Hey there, folks, come and see. Tune in now for laughs and glee. Join the fun here on this spree. Click and subscribe, it's free.
You know, there was a time living in Bangkok I swore I would never need to drive regularly again. Indeed, if you live in Bangkok and you still want to drive a car, you should probably disregard time as an important component of your day. It can be aggravating. Sure, once you've lived in the city, you know which back roads and streets to take, and yes, even Sukhumvit Road is perfectly drivable during several points in the day. But when you're stuck in traffic, you really start understanding what eternity must feel like. Comedian Emo Phillips once said that it's like standing in line at a supermarket and there are loads of folks in front of you and all their shopping carts are full, and it's the cashier's first day and he doesn't know English, and then you kind of get a sense of what it does feel like. It's purgatory. Bangkok is one of those cities where you really don't need to drive. If you do want to drive, it's best to get like a moped or something like that and take your chances on the road there, God willing. But taking my mom up north and realizing that it's best that she not drive by herself considering her age, her vision, her cognitive abilities, it necessitated me needing to drive. It didn't help that I didn't drive regularly for like the last 6 years, I guess. It was on the right-hand side of the road as well, and I had an expired license that I couldn't use to transfer here, so I had to start from scratch. And let's just say Thailand has a different vibe in driving than the States. The cards were stacked up against me. Let me stop rambling now and get into the meat and potatoes of this video. I've divided the video into 3 topics. First, companies that help you obtain your license if you want one. Second, if you have an existing license from your home country or an international driver's permit and you just need to do a transfer. Third, if you don't have any kind of license or your license has been expired and you've got to start from scratch. For those of you who don't feel confident enough to navigate the Land Transportation Office procedures on your own and would like some help, there's good news. There are several companies that offer these kinds of services. I actually looked up some of the companies and they were willing and eager to promote their offerings, though I did opt in the end to do it by myself. The reasons I chose not to go with the companies were as follows. First, I had to take the full test, necessitating me sitting through 5 hours of classroom time, and that's by myself. Second, I still needed to take the written test by myself, and it was offered in English. Third, you will have to pass the physical tests on your own. That's the reflex test, the color blindness test, the depth perception test, and the peripheral vision test, all on your own. Nobody's going to walk you through that. All the person would probably do is kind of stand there and maybe interpret for you if needed, but you really don't need an interpreter. All you need to do is observe what the person in front of you is doing and follow what they're doing, and you pass that portion of the test. It was pretty easy. I didn't know that until I did it, but I went ahead and did it anyways. Ultimately, I didn't feel the need to shell out 6,000 baht. Then the prices can run about 6,000, 7,000 baht for what essentially was a liaison and an interpreter if I had to do much of the heavy lifting on my own. Now, I'm not going to poo-poo these companies at all because that being said, I think that guides really help you navigate places. For example, the guides that help you navigate Changwantana to do your visa paperwork in Bangkok, they really make your life a lot less aggravating and confusing. So depending on who you are and what your needs are, you may find value in having someone kind of hold your hand, and at the very least, it helps calm your anxieties, which for me was really the greatest part of the entire process. Was I was anxious through a lot of it because there is a language barrier. I know some Thai, but not enough to get through a 5-hour class. The information here is going to apply to those wishing to obtain either a car driver's license or a motorcycle driver's license. For those of you who are wishing to do the transfer, they are not interchangeable. An automobile driver's license will allow you to get an automobile driver's license in Thailand. Ergo, a motorcycle driver's license will allow you to get a motorcycle driver's license in Thailand. So if you've got an automobile driver's license and you're wishing to get a motorcycle driver's license, well then you're really just starting from scratch. You can opt to get both in the same day if you're having to start from scratch. I accidentally did, and yes, I am just that dense. I accidentally applied for both licenses. By the way, the written test for each
is basically the same minus maybe 2 or 3 questions. The motorcycle driver's license test looked almost exactly like the car driver's license test. I'm not saying that the questions are identical. What I'm saying is they're drawing from the same pool of questions. The motorcycle driver's license test just had maybe 2 or 3 that were specific to the motorcycle. For those of you who have an existing automobile driver's license wishing to obtain a Thai automobile driver's license, the good news is basically it's just paperwork, and there's a physical test or a barrage of physical tests. There's actually 4 physical tests that you have to take, but you don't have to actually take a written test or a driving test in that scenario. So it's much quicker. I mean, you could be in the morning and out by noon. Bring the documents shown here. The health certificate is the same one as if you're getting a worker's permit. It checks for 5 communicable diseases. The results of the test can be rendered the same day. Prices and timelines vary, but you can find them at clinics for as cheap as 200 baht, all the way up to 1500 baht at a hospital. And yes, there is a wide berth of clinics and tests which will result in that coveted document with an equally large standard deviation of, let's just call it, testing rigor. Either way, it's possible to get your certificate in short order. As far as your license is concerned, your license does need to be active. The license application form is provided to you at the front desk of the Land Transportation Office, and the officers can help you through that process. I actually showed up early, like almost a week early, I believe it was, if I can remember correctly, and asked if I could get the form so I could take it home and fill it out. The lady looked at me like I was from outer space and basically just told me to come back the day that I was going to take it, and they would help me through the application process. Now, this conversation was had primarily in Thai, but Google Translates goes a long way in a situation like that, and they were very helpful. I came back, they helped me fill it out, and I was good to go. For those of you who are just doing the transfer, once the paperwork is filled out and documents are turned into the officer, he or she will place them in a package, clip together, and you will proceed to take your physical tests. Now, when I say physical tests, I'm not talking about a driving test. I'm talking about 4 specific tests to test your reflexes and your vision ability. These tests are simple. I'm showing them here in the exact order that they led us through to take those tests. The tests are a reflex test to see how quickly you can step on a brake pedal, and no, it's not in a real car, it's just a pedal that you see. It's actually just this contraption that they have. The next test is your depth perception test, a color blindness test, and a peripheral vision test. If you pass all 4 of those and you're just doing a transfer, you will be given your package back. You'll take it downstairs. You'll pay your 205 baht if you're getting a car, or your 105 baht if you're getting a motorcycle. And I swear it took like 10 minutes for them to cut the card and give it to me once I was ready, or once I hit that phase. Regardless if you're transferring an existing license over to a Thai one or if you're starting from scratch, you will be doing these 4 tests. By the way, when I say transfer, I'm just talking about obtaining a Thai driver's license based on an existing non-Thai license. I don't actually think they cut up your country's existing license the way they do in the United States when you're doing a transfer of licensing. A brake reflex test, a depth perception test, a color blindness test, and a peripheral vision test. We had a room full of applicants, at least 20 people if I can remember correctly, and we managed to get all of us done within an hour's time. Once they were completed, the license transfer applications were given their forms and proceeded to pay for their new licenses, and they were done. Those starting from scratch proceeded to the classroom for 5 hours of instruction. The brake reflex test was pretty simple. You sit in an ordinary chair. In front of you are 2 pedals. One simulates driving and the other one simulates braking. In front of you is a simulated traffic light. You are to keep your foot on the driving pedal until the light turns red. When the light turns red, you need to brake as quickly as possible, and I do mean as quickly as possible. 2 of the older applicants had difficulty with this one, so the reflex test did require a certain amount of speed. I found this to be easy, however. Next up is the depth perception test. Again, you sit in an ordinary chair, and this time you're holding what looks like a simple game controller. In front of you, about 10 feet away, is a box with 2 cylinders inside that box. The one on the right is stationary and never moves. The left one will randomly move towards you or away from you at a random distance. Your job is to move the left one using your up and down arrows parallel to each other. In other words, your up and down arrows will control that left cylinder, and what you're trying to do is get it lined up with the right cylinder with respect to where you are. Once you're convinced that they are parallel, you press the main button. If you're correct, a green light appears. You need to get 2 correct out of 3 tries, I believe. I just did 2. Once I had 2 green lights, they let me move on to the next test. Next is a color blindness test. The instructor will be standing about 10 feet away from you holding a circle with bubbles colored red, green, and yellow. When she points at the circle inside the big circle, one of those bubbles, you are to tell her if it's a red bubble, a green bubble, or a yellow bubble. And she does it in the Thai language, by the way. Here are the pronunciation of the colors. Red, dang. Green, kiao. Yellow, Liang. Don't fret too much if you don't pronounce them exactly. The 3 colors sound so different that it's easy for a Thai person to identify what you're trying to say. Finally, there is a peripheral vision test. This one feels like you're being sent to the guillotine and about to pay for the high crimes of the French bourgeoisie. You hunch over a contraption and place your chin on what looks like a cutting block. There are 2 black circles on either side of your face. One of the circles will turn on, and if it is on the right, you will push the button on the right. If it's on the left, you'll push the button that's on the left. You just have to wait for them to glow. This will be repeated until the officer is convinced that your peripheral vision is adequate. This is the last test, and you're finished at this point. Again, if you have an existing non-Thai driver's license, you're done. You will be given your paperwork back and proceed to the admin office, which is normally downstairs, to pay for your license and receive it within about 10 minutes. It's pretty quick. It's quick and efficient. Now, if you're starting from scratch and don't have a pre-existing license that you can use, the real fun really just begins now. You will proceed to a classroom and you'll be shown a video. That class or that orientation, whatever you want to call it, it's going to last about 5 hours. This will be in my part 2 video. Currently working on the part 2, and that's for those of you who have to do everything from scratch. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much, guys.
Hey there, folks, come and see. Tune in now for laughs and glee. Join the fun here on this spree. Click and subscribe, it's free. Hey there, folks, come and see. Tune in now for laughs and glee. Join the fun here on this